Let's start with an acceleration. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be going over a 2021 Mercedes-Benz E-Class, and with all that being said, let's just get straight into the video. So under the hood, we have a turbocharged 2-liter inline 4-cylinder that goes through a 9-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 22 around town and then 30 on the highway, with power outputs being 255 horsepower and then 273 pound-feet of torque. So let's go over the front end of the new E-Class, and first off, you guys will notice that we've got the Mercedes logo there at the top and then just down below, and then we've got these full LED lights here at the front end, which look absolutely fantastic. I definitely like the look of these new lights. And then you guys can see there with the whole front grille, I love all the little pieces that they've kind of integrated into it. And then I like this right down here. It integrates one of the parking sensors into that area. And then just down below, overall, the front end's definitely really good looking, and I think this is the best looking E-Class ever. Now coming around the side here, we've got two 45mm tires wrapped around 19-inch wheels in the front and over in the rear as well. And in terms of the design on the wheels, it's pretty interesting. So from the distance, it kind of looks okay, but then once you actually get a little bit closer, it's very strange. So I think that this outside part's okay, but then you've got this AMG ring on the wheel, which I don't know, it makes it look pretty weird. And then you do have the Mercedes-Benz brake caliper, that's completely fine, but the ring part of the wheel is just, I don't know, it's different. I like how the mirror's been blacked out, and then also they're at the top of the roof. I think that looks good. And then here's your full side profile with things kind of funny. The front end looks kind of more like a modern Mercedes, but then the back end kind of looks more like the older school E-Class, so it's kind of like it's mixed. Now popping here into the trunk area, it is absolutely massive for the E-Class. Storage space is not an issue. And we've got this little tab right here, as you can see, you've got even more storage space. So yeah, from a trunk perspective, it's pretty solid. And the cool thing is you've got this button right here that you can press, and then that'll lower it back down. So yeah, I think that's neat. Now here's the back end of the E-Class. Notice we've got the E350 badge, we've got the 4MATIC badge on the other side, parking sensors just down below, and then you guys can see the exhaust tip coverings, and then this is all blacked out. But yeah, like I said, this is kind of shaped similar to like an older E-Class, but then the taillights are a little bit different in terms of the look and design. Now here's the door panel in the back. I really like the wood trim they've picked out for the E-Class, and then the speakers for the sound system look great. And then you've got the leather just down below. Door handle definitely looks nice. And then here are the seats. So you've got a mix between the perforated leather and the regular leather here for the rear seats. And then we do get some vents back here, and we'll actually pop in. So first off, legroom, pretty good. And then headroom, pretty good. Also, look, the back passengers get their own little sunroof back here. But yeah, that's everything for the rear. Let's head to the front. Now here's the door panel at the front of the E-Class. So again, we've got that nice wood trim, and then that's your seat adjustment right there. It does have memory seats, heated seats, no cooled seats. And again, the speakers for the sound system look fantastic. You've got all the nice leather trim right here. The window controls look really nice as well. That is for the trunk. And then here are the front seats. So again, you've got the regular leather with the perforated leather. And then we've got a Mercedes-Benz logo. Then we've got the pedal layout just down below. We've got the light control right there. And there's one more look before we pop in. Here's our steering wheel in the new E-Class. First off, you've got this really nice soft touch leather all around the steering wheel. You've got nice paddles there on the back. And then you've got all your controls here for the voice command, phone controls, and then also the infotainment system, and then controls here for the center stack on the other side. Cruise control as well. And you've got your normal stock there for the turn signal. And then we do have our column shifter here. This is the transmission selector. Pretty straightforward. And yeah, that's all for the steering wheel. So here with the gauge cluster, you can customize it with a couple different options. So for example, I can do the sport look with the gauge cluster and actually change the whole design, or I can change it and go to like what we had it at before, which was the classic. And then you also have the progressive and then the understated. So it's pretty cool. You can actually change the gauge cluster because it's a full digital readout. The screen looks really good. And yeah, overall, I definitely like what Mercedes has done here. Now we have a few different drive modes that we can go through, and depending on the drive mode that you go through, normally you'd think it would change something with the gauge cluster, but it doesn't. It just shows you right down here what drive mode that you're in, which I think is pretty interesting, but I thought I'd at least mention that. But yeah, overall, the center gauge cluster looks really nice. It's easy to use the controls, and yeah, it's just all the different stuff you have on it. I think it's pretty cool. Now here's the center infotainment system. First off, I'm gonna pop it into reverse. You can see the backup camera with the trajectory lines. And then you guys can see there's all these other viewpoints you can go through. Now, with this, since it is a touchscreen, you can just press the little camera views and then you can go through all those different viewpoints. You literally have a camera view for every single angle on the car, pretty much, front and rear and all that. So from a camera perspective, it's really good. Now, as for the rest of the infotainment system, it's pretty interesting. So you can like hover your finger over things and it'll kind of like let you know that, oh, okay, you guys can see it's kind of selecting it. And then once you actually touch the screen, you can move it. But it's cool that the icon starts to like illuminate by just hovering your finger over it. I definitely think that's cool. This also comes with a bunch of other stuff like ambient lighting, all that kind of stuff. And you know, the normal stuff you're gonna get in a luxury car, but I think that's my favorite feature of the infotainment system is the fact that you just hover your finger over and then it does something. I love the vent setup just down below, and then I love the actuation on the switches as well. Definitely really nice. Got our climate controls down here, which yes, I am blasting the AC because it is literally, well, you guys can see here, 103 degrees outside, pretty hot today. And then we've got more analog controls to the infotainment system. We've got the wood covering right here, and we have this like container. I'm guessing this is like a little ashtray or something, but it's a Mercedes-Benz one, so it's pretty cool. And then wireless phone charger inside of there. And then this is also to control the infotainment system via this little keypad if you don't want to use the touchscreen. Drive mode, select which. If you guys are wondering on the different drive modes, we've got our individual Sport Plus, Sport, and then Comfort for the different drive modes. This for our parking sensors, the camera system, the auto stop start, the volume control, and then that's just to turn the infotainment system on or off. We have the center console right here, which is pretty normal. And then we've got the glove box, which again, pretty normal. I like the wood trim all across and how it all connects. Looks really good from a design standpoint. And then finishing things here at the very top again, we've got the double sunroof situation, and you control it just via that little switch right there. And then we've got a traditional mirror, and that's all for the top. So here's our window sticker for this 2021 E350. Feel free to freeze the frame so you can see all of the standard equipment that comes with this car. And then you guys can see the base MSRP, sorry about the lighting, and you can see all the options that are added on this particular one. And you can see the total MSRP right there, $64,325. Let's take her out and see how she drives. Well, other than me stumbling over my feet trying to get in the car, let's talk about visibility. So there's your visibility of the hood through both the mirrors, which do have blind spot monitoring, and then throughout the rest of the rear, and let's set off. So we are setting off in the E-Class, and let's start with an acceleration. Definitely has piped in audio, I can tell that first and foremost. I wouldn't necessarily call it quick. It gets up and moves, but it's not necessarily a quick car. You guys remember that I drove that GLA the other week? That felt quick and fun. This feels pretty sluggish, and they've got somewhat similar power outputs, so it's kind of interesting, right? Just because this car is so much bigger that it just feels substantially smaller. The brakes on it are pretty good, but you definitely can tell that it is a larger sized car. And we'll see the turn in. Yeah, so much turbo lag with this engine. It's quite interesting. It's like nobody's home, and then it's like, well, hello, I'm kind of here, but not really. Aside from that, suspension's really good. I purposely picked this road when I review cars down here now because they're still working on it, and this really tests out the suspension of a car. It actually rides pretty smooth, and again, we're in the Sport Plus mode. If I change it over into the Comfort mode, right, it'll soften everything up. And yeah, definitely really solid as a luxury car, really smooth, really quiet as well. One thing I will mention, these seats are actually pretty comfortable. Now I will mention that this leather isn't necessarily the softest, so you do have that kind of going against it, but the actual bolstering and everything on the seats is reasonably comfortable, so it gives you a pretty nice experience overall. Yeah, I definitely like the brake feel of this car, and I'm surprised. This definitely is, like, it's a big sedan, but it doesn't feel as big as it actually is. Like, it doesn't feel like a boat, and that's kind of what I was expecting. Is I was kind of expecting to get that boat type feel that you get like in a, I know these are completely different price points, but like a Dodge Challenger or Charger, those feel like boats, whereas this, it just doesn't have that feel. So that's definitely a huge plus. Now I'm going to pop back over into the Sport Plus because that's the fun driving mode to do. And aside from that, transmission's relatively responsive, so definitely has that going for it as well. And other than that, let's kind of talk about the overall ambience of this car. So interior wise, they actually did a really good job with the design, just because everything that I look at, even though it's not necessarily the nicest material wise, like the dash, I mean, that's not super nice, and this material down here is not super nice, it at least looks nice. And the main touch points in this car are actually really nice. Like the steering wheel feels really nice, the paddles feel really nice, all the controls feel really nice, the vents, all that kind of stuff. So I guess all the stuff that you actually touch with this car feels nice, so it does have that going for it. But they could definitely bring up the materials a little bit, especially the price point that this is at. Aside from that though, like I said, it does a really good job as a luxury car, and I guess that'll get me into some of the things up here with this new E-Class. Exterior wise, I love the front end. The back end, again, it kind of pays homage to the older ones. There's a green turn signal for the right turn, but you know what, these Provo drivers. Anyways, the back end kind of pays homage to the older E-Classes. I'm not a huge fan of how it looks, but it still is a pretty good looking car. Interior wise, I like the design, but again, I feel like they should bring up the materials just a little bit. But at least the touch points are all very nice. It drives really smooth. With this particular powertrain, not necessarily quick, not necessarily the most responsive, but I guess what you lose in speed and responsiveness, you do gain in fuel economy. If you wanted, I guess, a more fuel economy conscious E-Class, it really isn't too bad. The steering's very light, but there is a pretty good amount of directness for it, especially since this is a big luxury sedan. And so overall, if you want kind of like an entry-level luxury car and you don't really care about power and performance, then this base model E-Class is definitely a solid offering to go for. It's comfortable, it's smooth, it gets up and goes at a relatively reasonable pace. It's just not crazy fast, but at least it hits most of the luxury car key points. Now let's get some things up for our video on this 2021 Mercedes-Benz E-Class. As always, I'll see all of you guys in the next video, and that's all.